Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Today is episode 41. It's a very hot news session. We have some unfolding news items that are going to come today. First off, let us welcome Sridhar Chityalaji. Chityalaji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskaram and good morning to you on this wonderful Friday.
Good morning, sir.
Black Friday, the beginning of the shopping season.
Yes. And you may want to, take your eyeballs away from Amazon and other sites which are offering Black Friday specials to watch this particular hangout because we have some explosive news. To start off with, Trump has said that he may use executive order to take 230 out, the section 230 that is governing some of the rules by which the social media companies are operating. Let us start with that. Sridharji, what can you tell us about this action that Trump is mulling?
Well, I think that it's very important. Around 11:15 p.m. we had Donald Trump tweet, which is to say Section 230 is a threat to national security. So therefore, it should be terminated. Those were his words. So it is possible that he could use his executive powers to terminate 230. And what could be the reason? The reasons are what has been happening in the past 2 to 3 days. Mastriano, the Pennsylvania senator, who initiated, he got banned from Twitter. So there has been a number of, we ourselves have seen number of activities with which you try to tweet gets either blocked or thrown out. We also find that when we try to tweet Sidney Powell's depositions or filings in Georgia and Michigan, we have those tweets getting blocked. So there seems to be exercising power, which he seems to have. These are legal cases which are filed in the courts. So therefore, it could be the reason. I'm not suggesting that is, but the tweet is very relevant within the context of the battle that is going on between the tech platforms and generally even people, leave alone the government.
Sir, I also tried tweeting out one of the links. This was just a case deposition by Sidney Powell in a court in Georgia. And this particular link was denied. So what I ended up doing was I took a snapshot of what was being denied to me by Twitter and I posted it out as a tweet on my timeline. So a similar deposition also has been done in Michigan. So there are 2 lawsuits in play. Can you quickly walk us through these 2 lawsuits? What is it that it's alleging? Because I read through the first one of Georgia and the evidence that is being submitted looks quite compelling, sir.
Yes. Georgia's suit comprises of 30 specific points as it relates to potential fraudulent or alleged fraudulent activity. One that relates to the use of Dominion and Dominion software in the counting and reallocation of the votes. That's number one. Number two, it relates to this alleged incident, which is namely there was a breakage in the pipe. And so the voting needed to be stopped to investigate that matter, and recounting will commence once that is done. 2 things. One, there was no breakage. Number 2, apparently the voting continued with Republican observers not present. So that's the second.
You mean vote counting?
The vote counting. Sorry, the vote counting. The vote counting. Yeah, the counting. This is all relates to, all these activities relate to, from the day the elections finished to that.
Yes.
Then the third one is relates to some, this security paper and ballot paper. And then the other thing is relates to whether the appropriate, what you call procedures were followed when there was more than one marking in the ballot paper, and whether they should have been allowed to kind of redo the posting of the ballot. So like this, we'll cover this in detail in a separate session, but there are 30 specific instances where they have listed in Georgia. As far as Michigan is concerned, Michigan is very specific, which is namely the reposting of some of the ballots that seems to have occurred. They have most of the Michigan relates to affidavits filed by various people in terms of observing certain events which they believe is malified. Also, I think there was restamping of the date from, backdating the date for certain categories of votes. Also, some missing ballots, which seems to have resurfaced. So Michigan is a little smaller, but very specific as it relates to 12 specific points as listed, as cited in the filing in Michigan. So they believe both Georgia and Michigan is president's election rather than Biden's win, as is stated right now. As we speak, I just saw a message flash by that Dominion is now contesting. It's important to say Dominion is contesting the Sidney Powell's assessment and allegation that the votes can be switched and the software is manipulatable as it was done in Venezuela. And that is how the Venezuelan elections have been conducted. And Mr. Hugo Chavez has repeatedly won the elections in the past. So these were some of the stuff that is cited as to the Dominion software. One more thing about the Dominion software, which came up last night, is there is under the Cyber Infrastructure Security Association, Chris Krebs was fired, if you recall, who said everything was hunky-dory. There is a small standards group, and the standards group generally endorses and assesses and passes off the saying that everything is hunky-dory, or terms and conditions are met and we can proceed. Surprise, surprise! Amongst those, the people who are in that particular group include Microsoft, Amazon, Dominion, Skittle, that's SmartTech. All these companies who are supposed to self-audit themselves seem to be part of that specific group. So they all have self-audited themselves and said everything is great. So which prompted Chris to say, hey, the elections is fair and square and everything. While we know that there is a report which says, which Sidney Powell herself has stated, is that President Trump was watching fraud real time happening in the elections. This is where the data scientists have come in and established the fact that the way these vote patterns switched is mathematically, algorithmically not possible.
Yes, sir. And viewers, we are going to add a link of a 3+ minute video of OANN network, which actually talks about this, about a statistician's observation as to how this is statistically impossible. Also, before I go to the next topic, I want to show you something. This is the name of a book. This is the name of the book. I hope you can see it, sir. It's called The People's House by David Pepper, right? So, yes. Viewers, this was a book of fiction that came out after the 2016 election came. That Russia meddled in the United States election. You read this book, and then you read the allegations that are contained in the state of Georgia filings, and I'm sure something similar will be filed in Michigan as well. You will see an eerie similarity. Now, the takeaway here is the writer, David Pepper, is actually a Democrat from Ohio. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on. I leave it to your viewers to decide what exactly is happening, but there is something that doesn't smell right. So we'll just leave it at that. We'll see how things play out. So the next question for you, sir, is Trump has signed an executive order banning 89 American companies from selling into Chinese corporations run by the PLA. And China has retorted by recognizing Biden's victory. Sir, what exactly is this that America is trying to prevent PLA from buying?
I think that the Huawei was the first one, which is namely to say that the ban in Huawei is because of security features and security things that potentially can compromise national sovereignty, because of the founder of Huawei is, ex-PLA, and probably the company itself has links to PLA. That's one of the theories. Now, this is not just Trump. This has been there for quite some time, going back even 20, 25 years. So the specific ban that is applied to is the aerospace companies of China, which buys into certain materials and equipment and parts from U.S. manufacturers. So they don't want US manufacturers aiding and abetting some of the potential and alleged activities that could compromise US and US allies' interests. So he is imposing ban on 89 companies which are currently, not potentially, currently suppliers to Chinese. So therefore that ban is being applied. So until this thing came in executive order came into effect or coming into effect, which was just announced yesterday again, is that Biden, when Xi was on the border, now Xi has welcomed and announced Mr. Biden, and he said, we'll be able to, reestablish partnerships and have an open policy in terms of addressing our differences and so on. So you can see Xi's must be covered on this. He wants to enter CPTPP. He's having a dialogue with Japan, and he's going to soon have a meeting under the pretext of North Korea meeting with South Korea. So he is trying to kind of make his moves as a reciprocal counter without being so explicit to the Trump programs.
A lot of things happening on the RCEP front also. For our viewers' interest, I think, Sridharji, can you walk back from the origins of where the idea of RCEP started? Because India was one of the signatories to this thing in 2011, isn't it?
Correct. I think the genesis of RCEP goes way back, and Obama was one of the prime drivers of the whole RCEP. As well as the TPP initiative, which is to say, how do you create a Pacific forum, which brings together the Asian and Pacific economies, and then extends itself into the western coast of United States. So the origins go back, and China was never ever part of it. China was not. China was viewed with great skepticism at that point of time. The first foray of China was a bilateral between the ASEAN, and then they inducted them into ASEAN. But other than that, RCEP and TPPP, China was never part of it, and they were also the origins of the genesis of the South China Sea. So China was always like the big bully in the room. India was invited as an observant, and also as at that point of time, India was always looked as the buffer, as to combat the Chinese by virtue of the geographic location as well as the population and kind of lot of strategic kind of realignment. So that's where it goes back to, and China has nothing to do with RCEP, and of course less to do with anything to do with TPP at all.
And yet now we see that they are in the front and center of one, and they are also trying to barge their way into the other one. This is just what we are seeing is the observations. These are facts. We are not trying to extrapolate any data. Now,
just to conclude that point, when China was being considered to come back into RCEP, and we mentioned this in the program, I think yesterday or day before, the United States insisted, and the TPP nations insisted, to make the rules so stringent that China has to alter its domestic policies on labor laws, patents, preferred trade protection policies, subsidies, a whole range of structural reforms they need to do to come into TPP, right? So therefore, they put a barrier rather than just simply trading limits and tariff reductions on a range of products, which is the basis of RCEP.
Sir, let's take a quick look at what is happening in Europe, especially with Turkey. EU and France are mulling sanctions against Turkey. What exactly is playing out there, sir?
Well, I think Turkey has got its toe in water in two territories, right? It's involved in the Armenian-Azerbaijan problem. But just about less than a week ago, Mr. Erdogan made his visit to northern Cyprus, and then entertained the thoughts of that Cyprus should maintain dual identities, north and south. South being the Greek, whereas the Greeks have always said Cyprus is one, and Cyprus has said Cyprus is one, which is one Cyprus, which is not north and south. So therefore, he's making noise in northern Cyprus, and he's got also some kind of strategic interest. But what is at the root of the issue? The root of the issue seems to be Somehow he wants to hoodwink the northern Cyprians or Cypriots and, dip his toe into the hydrocarbons which are located in Mediterranean. It seems to be, the energy, because Turkey has always entertained that it's not only a passage, but also a strategic passage into Europe or Russia, but it's also entertaining thoughts that it wants to be an energy power because that's what will give it the money, right? Russia has all these kind of zealots have hydrocarbons driving their economies, which gives them the clout. So he seems to be entertaining the thoughts around that, and France and EU are saying France is taking the lead. It's quite amazing that the Emmanuel Macron, the type of leadership that he's showing in driving some of this, being at the front of the issues. By the way, remember that when Turkey was moving in, he sent the army, he sent the French naval ships into Greece to protect potential issues looming from this. So hydrocarbon seems to be the root cause, and EU and France are saying that they're very seriously contemplating not only sanctions but personally sanctioning Erdogan, which is of course refuting.
While we are on the subject of Macron, perhaps you can touch upon the new laws that France is enacting to try and curb the rise of radical Islam in their country.
Well, I think Emmanuel Macron has made an ultimatum, which is to say either you become part and parcel of the republic, you accept the republic as and just like all French citizens, or you cannot be part of the nation, right? So I think he has overnight enacted laws to reflect, and many curbs has been introduced which harmonizes various religious faiths to operate under one single rule of law umbrella. Massive raids were conducted, lots of things were seized, but at the same time, he made sure that the French legislature passed resolutions, which harmonizes the legal infrastructure into one, which many nations would not have done. For example, Germany did not do that, right? Of course, as you know, classic problem in India. They take years and years for something that they should have addressed last century, right, rather than this century. The same problem we have in the United States, right? So everything kind of takes time. And U.S. has still not felt some of these kind of issues, but France seems to have taken the lead for the rest of the world.
And viewers, that kind of wraps up today's program for us. And before we let go, we just want to let you know that we have two very important programs coming up. One, my hangout with the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Shankar Singh Waghela, on Ahmed Patel. That is going to start in 2.5 hours time at 9 p.m. IST. And the second one is a tech hangout between me and Sridhar Chityalaji, where we discuss the rise of Amazon. That is going to be on Sunday prime time at 9 p.m. IST. Do join in for both of this. What we are going to talk about, the rise and success of Amazon is going to blow your mind, because Sridhar Chityalaji and we've been at the ringside view of how this company came from nowhere, selling books, to now it is really a big corporation. And I think the way it is growing, it's just mind-boggling, the way it's been able to conquer so many verticals. So a lot of stuff for you over the weekend, and starting with a primetime hangout on Ahmed Patel with Shankar Singh Waghela. Sridharji, as always, it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be back Monday, same time, weekday news capsule. Thank you very much, and namaskar.
Namaskar, and thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.